By now, you've probably heard about the recent drama at OpenAI. To recap, this is what happened. OpenAI makes ChatGPT. ChatGPT explodes and becomes insanely successful. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman becomes famous and starts meeting world leaders. OpenAI board fires Sam Altman. Panic ensues. People start leaving OpenAI. The board is given an ultimatum: bring back Altman or the entire staff goes to Microsoft. Board brings back Sam Altman. The story reads like some kind of Monty Python script, but it's actually pretty much what we would expect from non-profit boards. To make sure we understand, let's first talk about companies that don't have a tendency to spontaneously combust, also known as normal for-profit firms. Take some irrelevant firm as an example, say Microsoft. Microsoft has a CEO that is tasked with making a lot of money. He's overseen by the board. Why does the board care? Mostly because the board holds a lot of Microsoft stock. So if Satya Nadella makes a lot of money for the firm, then the board members become rich. If he loses money, they become poor. So they have a lot of incentives to make sure the CEO does well, and if he doesn't, he gets fired. And as Milton Friedman argued, this is what firms should do. If they decide to pursue goals other than profit, then they will either be producing worse products for consumers or making less money for the board, which means that they eventually get fired and outcompeted by firms that are willing to maximize profit. And here you ask, what about the environment? What about social justice? What about alleviating poverty? Friedman would answer that these are not the firm's responsibility, but that of government. The government should tax carbon so that polluting the environment is not profitable. The government should outlaw discrimination so that firms don't engage in it. And the government can redistribute wealth. In essence, the role of the state is to create incentives such that profit maximization leads to good outcomes. Because really, you can't just avoid profit maximization. It's like trying to fight evolution. But unfortunately for Milton Friedman, San Francisco exists solely to fight evolution and do stuff that we thought undoable. This includes creating OpenAI, a non-profit trying to create a robot god. The basic argument from OpenAI is that for-profit firms can't be trusted to create artificial intelligence because they won't care about safety, and governments are too slow to regulate them, so a non-profit has to do it. What could possibly go wrong, right? Yeah, things went wrong. The issue is that non-profit boards are an utter disaster. Unlike for-profit boards, they do not own stock in the organization, so they are not directly affected by its actions. As a result, they have no idea what happens day to day. Furthermore, even if they knew what was up, they're not sure what they should be doing. At a normal company, the goal is obvious: make more money. How do you know if you're doing well? Just look at your stock price. Easy. Well, what does a non-profit board member look at? Supposedly, someone at OpenAI would care about building safe artificial intelligence. But what the hell does that mean? How do you know if what you're doing is safe or not? This is why the world's fastest successful startup almost self-destructed. The board members did not depend on OpenAI for their livelihoods and had other jobs, so they had no idea what was going on. So they were totally caught off guard when over 90% of the staff said they'd leave if Sam wasn't brought back. They also had zero accountability for OpenAI's failure and success. Did anybody thank the board when the company succeeded? No. Did anybody blame them when ChatGPT would hallucinate? Also no. Nobody thought the board had any responsibility for what went on, good or bad. This should become even more obvious when we note that a board member stated that the organization's destruction would be consistent with its mission. Like, I'm sorry, Helen, but come on. And though OpenAI survived, they have now added Larry Summers to their board. Like the former president of Harvard from the social network who was Bill Clinton's Treasury Secretary, Larry Summers. Do you really think he's going to keep up with the everyday activities of OpenAI? Do you really think he'll meet even half the employees or even 10%? No, of course not. So this is the Friedman Act warning to OpenAI. The non-profit board system will eat you alive. In the long run, the organization will either be consumed by its for-profit arm and become another Google or Microsoft, with the board as a mere formality that nods to the CEO's decisions, or you'll self-destruct. In either case, it'll be fun to watch.